Welcome to the program. Today, we turn our focus to a corner of the globe that is currently enduring what many humanitarian experts describe as the world's most neglected catastrophe. While global headlines are often dominated by conflicts in Europe and the Middle East, the nation of Sudan is tearing itself apart in a brutal civil war that has entered its second year. This is not just a localized skirmish, it is a full-scale collapse of a state, resulting in a humanitarian nightmare that is staggering in its proportions. Despite the scale of suffering, the international response remains muted and media coverage is sparse. Tonight, we analyze the roots of this conflict, the horrifying data behind the displacement, and why the global community continues to look away from Sudan's plea for help. To understand how we got here, we must look at the power struggle that ignited on April 15, 2023. The conflict is primarily a violent rift between two military factions, the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, known as the RSF, led by Mohamed Hamdan Hemeti Dagalo. Once allies who staged a coup in 2021 to derail Sudan's democratic transition, the two generals turned on each other over the integration of the RSF into the national army. This personal and institutional rivalry has turned urban centers like Khartoum into battlefields, forcing millions to choose between catching a stray bullet or fleeing their homes with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The numbers associated with the Sudanese conflict are difficult to comprehend. Since the fighting broke out, over 10 million people have been forced from their homes. To put that in perspective, that is more than the entire population of many medium-sized countries. Sudan now holds the grim title of the world's largest displacement crisis. Approximately 8 million people are displaced internally, seeking safety in rural provinces, while over 2 million have crossed borders into neighboring Chad, Egypt, and South Sudan. These neighboring nations, already grappling with their own economic and social challenges, are now the front lines of a massive refugee influx that shows no signs of slowing down as the fighting intensifies in regions like Darfur.
Beyond the bullets and bombs, a silent killer is stalking the Sudanese population: hunger. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, has released terrifying data indicating that nearly 25.6 million people, over half of Sudan's population, are facing acute hunger. Even more alarming is the confirmation of famine in the Zamzam displacement camp in North Darfur. This is the first time a famine has been formally confirmed anywhere in the world since 2017. Farmers cannot plant crops, markets have been looted, and aid convoys are frequently blocked by warring factions, using food as a weapon of war. Without immediate and massive intervention, we are looking at a mass starvation event that could define a generation.
While the need for medical care has skyrocketed, the capacity to provide it has almost entirely vanished. It is estimated that 70 to 80% of health facilities in conflict-affected areas are currently non-functional. Hospitals have been shelled, occupied by soldiers, or left abandoned due to a lack of electricity and basic medical supplies. This collapse has paved the way for secondary disasters. Outbreaks of cholera, measles, and malaria are spreading through displacement camps, where clean water is a luxury. For the millions of Sudanese with chronic conditions like diabetes or kidney disease, the war is a slow death sentence as dialysis centers close and pharmacies run dry. The infrastructure of life is being systematically dismantled. This brings us to a painful question. Why is the world ignoring Sudan? When we compare the media coverage and financial aid allocated to Sudan versus the conflicts in Ukraine or Gaza, the disparity is jarring. Several factors contribute to this silent crisis. First, there is a lack of clear geopolitical sides that Western audiences easily identify with. Second, Sudan's complex internal politics are often dismissed as just another African conflict, a reductive and harmful trope. Additionally, the warring factions have severely restricted journalist access, making it difficult for the world to see the faces behind the statistics. Without the viral images that often spur international outrage, Sudan remains a footnote in the global consciousness. Amidst the darkness, there is a glimmer of hope.
driven by the Sudanese people themselves. With international NGOs often unable to reach the hardest-hit areas, local volunteers have formed emergency response rooms, or ERRs. These are grassroots networks of youth, doctors, and neighbors who risk their lives to run communal kitchens, organize medical evacuations, and distribute what little clean water they can find. These ERRs represent the best of humanity, stepping into the vacuum left by the state and the international community. They are currently the primary lifeline for millions, yet they operate on shoestring budgets and face constant harassment from the warring parties. Supporting these local initiatives may be the most effective way to provide direct relief.
As we conclude today's deep dive, the message is clear: Sudan cannot wait. The combination of the world's largest displacement crisis, a confirmed famine, and a shattered healthcare system creates a tipping point from which the country may not recover for decades. Awareness is the first step toward action. By demanding that our leaders prioritize diplomatic pressure and increase humanitarian funding, we can help break the cycle of indifference. The people of Sudan are not just statistics. They are students, parents, and workers whose lives have been paused by a war they did not choose. Thank you for listening and for choosing to look at a crisis the world is trying to ignore. Join us next time as we continue to cover the stories that matter.